Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Connecting with Kim here in the brand new year. We're so happy you joined us here today on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network, because we are your source for information about people, places, and things that you need to know about to make living your best life in our corner of paradise, and it really is paradise. So again, you can catch the audio of our show on Sun Radio Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3:30, and on stream, and that's 96.3 FM down at Sun City Center. Before I start off, I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay. They provide my on-air wardrobe, which consists of clothing and jewelry and whatever I pick up in the store to feature, and I want to thank them. But most of all, I want you to go to the Spring Boutique located at the corner of Swann and Henderson and give them your business, because all the net proceeds from the thrift store on North Willow and the boutique at Swann and Henderson go to support their mission of providing sanctuary and services to survivors of domestic violence and their children. And they've been doing it since 1977, and they do a great job. So please make me happy and them happy by going and giving them your business. Okay, so we'll get started with the show today. I have a returning guest, and he's one of my favorites. I started my radio show with him. I started my television show with him, and I'm glad he's back, because we have in the chair today our Supervisor of Elections for Hillsborough County, Mr. Craig Latimer. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Really, I mean that sincerely. So we just came through. Now, when we're recording, when we record this show and when it airs are not always the same. But we just came through our general election in November, and I want to give you, as well as all the other supervisors of election in the state of Florida, kudos for bringing us through in spectacular fashion once again. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the compliment.
Well, I think we're at a point now in Florida, I'm happy to say, where we could be giving lessons to other states on how to conduct an election where you have mail-in, early, and election day voting, because it seems to be some states are still having some kind of issue.
Yeah, and it's all around the laws, you know, and that's the thing. In our state, everything we do is in state statute and administrative rule, but it's evolved over about a 20-year process, and a lot of that's been because of our statewide association of supervisors. Every legislative session, we're in there trying to advise the legislators on how this can be better. You know, we can make this better. If we change this, we can do better with this. And the legislatures listen to us by the most part. And that's why I think, we've got some great laws in place. For instance, I can begin processing and counting vote-by-mail ballots 22 days before the election. We don't release any results until election night after 7. Same way, by law, I have to upload all of the early vote by 5 p.m. on Monday before the election, so that it's there and we know it's there, and if there's an issue, we've got time to try and fix something. Because there has been issues over the years around the state where, some glitch happened that they weren't able to get the results up immediately. So that's why, at a little after 7, every county in this state releases at least 70%, or roughly 70% of the election results right after 7 o'clock.
Well, I want you to take a moment. Now, I know we've done this in every show that we've had, but, in Florida, we have so many brand new people moving in from all over the country, and we have no idea what they're doing in the country, in the state they're coming from. But we know what we do in Florida. But they may not know you, so I always like to take a few minutes to let you give them some acquaintance with who is Craig Latimer, because, you are our Supervisor of Elections, but that's all they know at this point. So just because you've won awards and all kinds of important things are happening, so I want you to just take a few minutes and step people through that.
So I could go back, and you were talking about your sponsor earlier. Prior to this, I spent 35 years with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. I can tell you firsthand what an asset the Spring is to this community. After that, I went to work in the elections office. I was elected in 2012. I was reelected in 2016 and 2020. My office is the first Supervisor of Elections office in the state to receive the Governor's Sterling Award, which is the highest award you can receive based on performance. So we do what we say we're going to do, and we produce. So we've been very fortunate here. We've got a great team here. Mm-hmm. But if somebody is new to the area, I would strongly urge that they go to my website, votehillsborough.gov. And there's on that website what I call a long series of short videos.
There is. They're excellent too.
It talks all about voting in not only Hillsborough County but the state, and how things are run from vote by mail, early vote, what an overvote is, what an undervote is, including a behind-the-scene tour of my office too.
I've watched your videos. You're quite the you've done an excellent job. You're quite the star on those videos, and they are very, very informative. Because what people need to understand when they move into Florida is that we are a closed primary state. So it doesn't mean you can't vote at all. It just means that you can't pick the candidate unless you declare a party.
Right.
So, but you can vote on other important races: school board, judges, etc., referendums, etc.
Yep.
So they need to know that, and also that we allow you to, when you go and get your driver's license, which you should definitely do that when you move into Florida, we allow you at the DMV to register your party.
Motor voter.
Yeah.
You can register if you come into the state. You're going to get that driver's license. They're going to ask you if you want to register to vote. They're going to go through the whole series with you. If you want to select a party or if you want to be no party affiliation, you can do all that in one stop. In addition to that, though, you can again go on my website, votehillsborough.gov. You can register online.
Yep.
You can update your registration online. If you've changed your address, you can go right online and update that information. If you want to change your party affiliation, you're going to have to either do it online or do it in paper to us.
Well, and we did that because, as you know, my mother, who you've known a long time, she moved this past year in 2022. She moved from her single-family home into a different situation, and of course, she had to update her voter information because not only did her address change, but her precinct changed, and smooth as silk.
I'm a little surprised that she didn't pick the phone up and just call me.
Well, I
think you're right. It is easy. It was
so easy that there was no need to bother anybody. It just went fantastically. And then, of course, we had to go do the whole thing with the driver's license and all that too, because she moved. But everything went really great. And we voted. I thanked you before we went on air. You opened up the new South Shore Regional Service Center in Ruskin for voting not only in the primary but the general. And Mom and I used that to early vote in the primary, and we had such a good experience there that I said, because we used to go to the library, the Best Shields Library up on 19th, and I said, let's just go back to the South Shore Regional Service Center because it was so great.
Yeah, we were really pleased that became available to us. I'm actually going to be having an office there too, so if people need to come in, it's going to be a nice, close for them. As you know, South County is just absolutely exploding. The population down there, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about south of Apollo Beach, into Ruskin, or over on the other side off of 301. There's just a lot of people moving into that area. So we're constantly looking at that. We're constantly looking, do we need to have additional precincts on election day, polling sites? What do we need to do to make it convenient for people? Because that's my goal. I want everybody that's eligible to be registered to register and then vote. That's the biggest thing. So I want to remove any barrier whatsoever. That's why I do the full 14 days of early voting. I'm only required to do 8 days, but
exactly.
I don't. I do 14.
Well, I will throw this your way right now. I know Michael Owen, our new commissioner-elect. Well, actually, by this time, he will be the commissioner for District 4. He and I have talked about this, and one thing that we're both focused on, because as you know, we have a lot of people that use golf cars for transportation because they no longer drive. Like my mother gave up her driving privileges this past year and gets around town on a golf car. One thing that we would really love to have in at least part of early voting in Sun City Center is an early voting site that people can get to on their golf cart. Because unfortunately, we have two places close, the South Shore Regional Service Center and the Best Shields Library, but they can't get there.
They're not in the zone for golf
Yeah, they're not in the
carts,
zone for golf cart. So I know that would be one thing that we would love. In our neck of the
woods. We can
woods.
certainly look at that.
Yeah, well, we'd appreciate that. So let's before we launch into, because it goes fast, I'm looking at, I want people to know, because it continues to be an issue, that some states are not able to count their votes until a week or sometimes 2 weeks after, the general, and provide the results. And this just feeds into some people's concerns about the integrity and the security and so on and so forth. And I would like you to talk about how, because Florida, it really is a model now. I mean, it's a model for the entire country. I want you to spend a few minutes telling people that you actually have been called upon to try to help other states. I have, yes. I've testified before different states, Senate or House subcommittees, given them suggestions of, here's how we do it in Florida. And all I can do is give them the suggestions. It's up to them if they're going to enact them. But yeah, I mean, we've still got states that, for instance,
don't have no excuse vote by mail. You have to have an excuse. You have to either be over 65, a disability, you have to sign an oath, you're going to be out of town and somebody else has to attest to that. That starts to get difficult for people. So, that's just each state's in charge of their own election. Now, the flip side of that is that there's 10,000 jurisdictions that conduct elections out here in the United States, and none of them are connected to each other. So that helps to make sure the integrity of the election is good. It's every state has their own laws about how they conduct elections, plain and simple.
And a lot of people, and I have to say, I'm not asking for that to change personally as a citizen and a voter, because that gets into the whole area of states' rights and so on and so forth. And I'm not quite convinced that a federal system would actually solve any issues or problems or enhance the system altogether. So I wouldn't personally support that.
And I will tell you one other thing that won't work that we hear people talking about all the time, and that's hand count votes.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
If you think about our ballot, where we've got sometimes 30, 40 different races on that ballot,
right.
To try and sit down and do that. I saw a pretty interesting article out of Nevada where they decided they were going to hand count 347 ballots with multiple races on it, and it took them 7.5 hours to count 347 ballots.
Right. That's you go, you vote, you feed it through the machine. It tells you right there your vote was. What could be? And in Wisconsin, one thing they did when I used to vote in Wisconsin, they had basically the same kind of system. They had a little like a little register tape, like a cash register tape thing on the side, and it immediately spit out this condensed little cash register tape, basically, and it showed you exactly what you voted on your ballot. So you had proof when you walked out of there. It was the easiest, peasiest, simple.
And the other thing, Kim, that I want to put out to your audience, I do not write those amendments. So quit calling my office and telling me how confusing I'm writing them.
Thank you for saying that, because you know what? He doesn't write the amendments, right? He doesn't write those.
That's correct.
The county commission probably hires somebody, I'm sure.
Or the state legislature.
They like to hire people to do stuff. Has somebody write those, and you don't do it. They give you the stuff, and then you put it on the ballot, right?
Correct.
So call your local county government and state government representatives, because they're responsible for that. Okay, so as we wrap up, let's wrap up and see what lessons we learned, if we needed to or had to, and share with the folks what you know about what just happened in last November.
Yeah, the only real change that we did this last time was we moved our secure ballot intake stations at the early vote sites back inside. During the pandemic, we'd put them all outside, and it was an effort to keep people from having to go into closed areas. We moved them back, and that worked tremendously. Plus, it was inside that 150-foot no solicitation zone. And that was the other thing, I did a lot of interviews with the press, and they kept hyping, what were we, worried about, intimidation and threats, and it never materialized. And I think that a lot of that is because we have ongoing conversations with law enforcement. No, we don't have law enforcement at every one of our polling sites by any means, but they know where our polling sites are. They know if they're responding to it, what's going on there. So I was really proud of the fact that we really had no issues whatsoever with poll worker intimidation or any threats to any of our election officials here.
That's wonderful, because that hasn't been the case in other places. If you're just joining me now and connecting with Kim, my guest in the chair is the Hillsborough County Supervisor of Elections, Craig Latimer. And we're talking about what lessons or what we can draw from, or how great it went in the November election, because it did go great in Florida. And in Hillsborough County in particular. And then now we're going to start approaching, because this show is going to air in January, when we are going to be heading into the City Council, Tampa City Council elections, and the mayor election. I wouldn't say mayoral, because I was sure I would screw it up.
The city elections are interesting. Before every city election, it's in their charter, myself along with the Hillsborough County Planning Commission, we do redistricting for the city. And it's to adjust the districts to make sure that they have a like amount of people in them. Now, we don't make big changes. It may move a precinct or two is all it is, but it stays current all the time. So it's not like we're making wholesale changes. And then the city, every seat comes available. All 7 city council seats, and of course the mayor, will all be on the ballot. So it's a little bit of a different setup than we're used to, but it works well. And January 25th, we will have vote-by-mail ballots going out. But we want to remind people, you have to renew your request for a vote-by-mail ballot. Everybody's request expired after that November 22 general election. So you can go on my website, votehillsborough.gov. You can sign up for a vote-by-mail ballot there, or call our office at 813-744-5900 so you can request that vote-by-mail ballot again, because it will not be automatically sent to you.
We can't emphasize that enough, people, because I remember we signed up, we always early voted or voted on election day, but during the pandemic, we signed up for mail-in ballot because I said to my mom, we don't know what's going to happen. You know, I mean, this thing is like a moving target, and we don't know what's going to happen, and we want to be prepared, and because we take our right to vote as a sacred duty. No, that's how I was raised in my family. It's not only your constitutional right, it's your sacred duty. And so we wanted to be prepared. And I remember the last time you and I sat down this year, or last year I should say, in 2022, we talked about that it was going to expire and it would get me through this election, which it did. And I always take my mail-in ballot. I got it, you know, and I took it to the poll. And surrendered it when I early voted, and my mom too. So yeah, you've got to reapply because the law changed after the election.
Yep, it's only good through one general election now. And I used to put a check mark on the back that you wanted to continue to receive it, but now we're also required to have your driver's license number or the last 4 years social to be able to match what we have on file so that we know who it is that's getting that ballot.
So as we, before we kind of go off on the city elections and the mayor election, let's just, I know you brought, I love you because you always have a lot of statistics, and I'm an econ major in college, and so statistics are right up my alley. So I don't know if you wanted to share some of the statistics that you have garnered out of this last election.
Yeah, so, you know, I was disappointed. We only had a 52% turnout. That was a start. So, as I always say, so the 48% that didn't vote just gave your right away to the 52% that did.
And they have no right to complain.
They made the choice for you. This election, we closed the books 924,891 registered voters in Hillsborough County. We had a 52% turnout. 41% of that was vote by mail. 27% was early vote, and then 32% was election day. Ironically, if you look at the turnout by party, 52% of the eligible registered Democrats voted, 67% of the eligible Republican voters voted, and then 38% of the no party affiliation. Another interesting little tidbit with Hillsborough County is that the no party affiliation and other minor parties has now surpassed the Republican Party.
Yeah, it has.
In the number of registered voters. 1%, you know, we're at 37% Democrat, 31% Republican, 32% no party affiliation or other minor parties.
Well, you know, I will be the first one to say that I believe the ranks of the NPAs are swelled mostly by former Republicans versus Democrats. I would say that the Democrats, and not to get too political, people, because I'm not supposed to do that on my show, but Democrats tend to stay in the fold no matter what they might be experiencing or how they feel about it, right? They stay in the fold.
So I'll let you use the line that I use. There's politics and elections. I conduct elections.
Exactly. And then there's the politics of it all. Well, there's no question that we just came through in this election. I mean, it was Republican voters were highly motivated to get out and vote. And they might have been motivated by a lot of different reasons, but certainly the top of the ticket got them very motivated to vote. And it was a clean sweep for that ticket. And they got out and voted. And, you know, kudos to them. I mean, they didn't stay home. You know, they said, I'm going to go vote. Because I always tell everybody, I always say this when people ask me about party versus no party. I always say, well, my belief is that you can't change anything from the outside. You can only change from the inside. And you have to get in there and fight for what you believe in and fight for your principles and try to change things the way you want them to be. Walking away from it doesn't change anything because it leaves all the fringes in there.
And interesting, you know, in the 2018 election, which is a mere midterm election, in the general election, we had over 61% turnout. So, you know, we dropped pretty drastically with the turnout. In addition, we added 67,000 more voters since 2018.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting, but yeah, there's a lot of people that just didn't come out to vote.
Didn't come out to vote, especially on the Democratic side. They just stayed home. And if they did come out to vote, they didn't necessarily vote Democratic. Let me put it that way. And that's sad. I feel bad that they were not motivated to come out and vote. But that's something that party will have to address itself to.
You know, one interesting thing, if we can talk about it a minute, is
Sure.
there was some law changes. So this last election, in both the primary and the general, there was more observation opportunities for people that were appointed by candidates or parties to come in, and they could see signature verification. They could also see duplication, which we've always allowed people in anyway. And I opened it up, I didn't have to, but I opened it up to these same authorized individuals that they could watch the actual vote by mail processing, where we methodically remove the secrecy sleeve in the ballot from the envelope, and then the envelope goes off the table, so there's no way to associate it with a voter. And it was really interesting. We had people came in every day to do signature verification, observation. They looked at over 2,000 signatures, and they protested 12 signatures out of that 2,000. And the canvassing board ultimately accepted them because the law is very specific. It states that to reject it, it must be beyond a reasonable doubt. So there's a training that the state puts on that we gave the link to the people to you know, because we wanted them to be educated when they came in. But having said all that, after the law was changed, we still had 70% of the appointments that weren't filled. But we had people there every day, so.
Well, and personally, I view that as positive, that that you opened this up, they came in to satisfy whatever, you know, curiosity or questions or whatever it was they had, and that can't be a bad thing.
We took it as a very positive thing. As a matter of fact, one of my employees said, you know what, they're going to catch us doing something right.
And what could be better than that, right?
Exactly.
I mean, because they'll be happy to catch you doing something wrong, right?
Yeah.
And that spreads like wildfire, you know. Unfortunately, I would have liked it if they had spread the good news about catching you doing things completely right. But we will say it right now on my show. You know, I personally feel very secure voting in Hillsborough County. I don't feel there's anything for me to worry about.
Yeah, and you know, and I mentioned earlier with the sheriff's office for 35 years, I take security and safety extremely, extremely seriously.
I know you do.
And you know, and we have to follow the law. That's you know, we've got 3 principles we live by, and that's, you know, follow the law, give great customer service, and always do the right thing regardless of what the consequences are.
So as we don't have much time left, but I want to talk about, is there anything we need to say more about the city elections and the mayor election?
Yeah, you know, the city elections is another one that traditionally has a very low turnout. I'm talking in the 15% range.
Really?
Yeah, and so, you know, to those viewers in the city of Tampa, these city council people are the ones that are taxing you. They're making sure your garbage is picked up. They're making sure that your potholes are filled in your street and all these other quality of life issues. You should probably get engaged with this. You know, we're going to be sending everybody that doesn't get a vote by mail ballot a sample ballot. And I would urge people, you know, take your time, research the candidates for both council and the mayor, and then, you know, we'll have early voting, we'll have vote by mail, and we'll have election day. So come out and make your choices and have your voice heard.
Because you and I talked before we went on air that we've already had several folks file for city council. And because, like you said, every seat is up and open, and we've had some filing against incumbents for city council, and I am absolutely shocked at that statistic of turnout. You ought to be, people in Tampa, you should be ashamed of yourselves. You should, I mean, first of all, when somebody starts complaining to me, usually I ask them, did you vote? And if they tell me no, I just kind of look at them like, well, I don't have time for you, because if you don't vote,
I agree.
You know, you let somebody else make the decision, so you obviously didn't think, you know, you're what you felt was important enough.
Yeah, and you know, Tampa's a big city.
Yeah,
we're
big city.
Not a small city. They've got a big budget.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of things with those budgets and different things that they're doing. People should pay attention to it and have a voice in it.
Yeah, that is shocking. I mean, I'm still sitting here gobsmacked and focusing on that low percentage of turnout. in what has typically been a one-party town. I mean, I was trying to figure out how I was going to say that. Typically been a one-party town for elected officials anyway. But yeah, get out there and vote. I mean, I just can't say it enough, people.
The Tampa election are nonpartisan.
Right, but nothing in life is nonpartisan.
Right. they don't run with a party affiliation, I'll put it that way. It's a nonpartisan races. So.
But there's always ways to, figure out who's coming from what angle.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I always like to, particularly for you and others, to have a time on my show towards the end to be able to look in their camera, because you have your own camera, and deliver whatever message you want to deliver to the residents and taxpayers of Hillsborough County. So feel free to take it away.
Yeah, and that's great. Like I said, we follow the law. One of the things before every election, we conduct what's called a public logic and accuracy test, where we make sure that the machines are counting correctly. After every election, by law, we conduct a post-election audit. I do it electronically with equipment that's certified by the state. I'm only required to do 20% of the precincts. I do 100%. Every single ballot that's counted by one of my tabulators goes through this audit process. Hillsborough County residents should feel that their elections are safe and secure. And go on my website, votehillsborough.gov, look at that long series of short videos so that you know what's going on behind the scenes too, to continue to build your confidence.
Thank you so much, Craig. That was great. I'm on your website all the time. I hope you're not tracking it, because good Lord, I'm signing on there all the time. They'll probably start to think, what is her problem? She's on our website all the time. But thank you for being my guest today on Connecting with Kim. You know that it's always a pleasure to have you in the chair. I always love it, and I know you're going to come back, so I'm not worried about that.
I will be back.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Folks, that's all we have time for today. I want to thank you for joining us today on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. Again, you can catch the audio of our show on Sun Radio 96.3 FM in Sun City Center, and on stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3:30. And then you can watch us here. Basically, I'm going to be on every day now in 2023. So you have no excuse not to watch the Connecting with Kim show, where you are going to get all the information you need to live your best life in our corner of paradise. And I want to again thank my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, for providing my on-air wardrobe. They're just a great organization to partner with, and they do great work. So please go visit the thrift store and the boutique at Swann and Henderson. So we'll sign off, and we'll ask you to come back next week for another edition of Connecting with Kim. Take care.